here at the Credit Union Connection, and I'm having two wonderful guests today. I have Caroline Willard of Cornerstone League. Welcome.
Hi, Sarah.
And John Bratsakis from the Maryland DC Credit Union Association. Welcome.
Hi, Sarah. How are you? Great to see you.
Good to see you all as well. So we're here and to talk about the changing of the guard, the passing of the baton, if you will. Um, and so I would like you all to talk a little bit about more of yourselves and background on your role in the CU4Kids.
Okay,
Who
John.
wants to start?
Jump on.
I've been in credits for 37 years now, coming right out of college unexpectedly, and but kind of my involvement with CMN started several years ago. Obviously, when I was at the credit union, I remember going to the Northwest Classic, which was called the Hank and Moose back then, golf outing, and being invited to that. And it was just this powerful collection of people from all over the country with this message of, kind of the mission of people helping people and how credit unions are doing that with CMN. And then I was fortunate to come to this role. And with the Cherry Blossom Race, you saw that on a bigger scale. And you also saw it right here in DC, where, folks get to see that all the time. So being in credit unions, for so long, you get to see and you get to feel the difference. It's just not words, right? Whether it's our business partners, like Valera, even previous knowing Caroline and all the work she did over at Co-op, and what PSCU did with their involvement, especially with the race here, and True Stage, and just all of the credit union work that's done. It just is kind of, I guess, was ingrained in me early on in my career that's one of those themes that you can use to show here's the credit union difference, and it's consistent throughout the country. So we can collectively say, hey, credit unions have raised over $220 million to help children throughout this country by collaborating.
Yeah, I remember when this program started. It's crazy. It's grown so much. How about you, Caroline?
Well, I haven't been in credit unions for 37 years because I'm a recovering banker. I was a banker in the
Oh,
90s. And yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, mea culpa, but I was. And to contrast, the chief lending officer at the thrift, the savings loan I worked at, drove a Lamborghini because they were making money off of the wrong kinds of mortgage loans. Won't go into it. Really, the only reason they did anything in their community is because CRA compelled them to. And then I move over to a credit union and I'm like, they're putting these little balloons on the wall. And I didn't really get it at first, but of course they were raising money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And then over time, because I was at that credit union for 5 years and then moved on to co-op, but over time, I understood, okay, this is what we've chosen. This charity is what speaks to us. This is what we, if we lock arms together as a movement, can sustain, grow, build. And it's pretty great to see what's happened in the intervening decades. And, John's right. I was at Co-op. I got to be there when they created the Miracle Match program. And they sent me to the Hank and Moose tournament like John. I got to go and I was so starstruck by all the people I saw there, and I thought this really amplifies our movement. This gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning. For me, it's one of the most gratifying things that I've done in my career is be associated with this organization. So, when I got to Texas, I thought, wait a minute, there's no big CMN event here. What's the story? And it just hadn't happened. I mean, there were some substantial smaller events going on, but we created Bourbon Barbecue and Bands just last year because we thought we need to be doing our part in the middle of the country. And, it fits us. It might not work as well, John, I don't think, in Washington, D.C. I don't know, the bourbon part might, but
Yeah,
Yes.
the barbecue would too.
yeah, the
And
cowboy boots, maybe not as much.
That and the cowboy hats might not work.
It took me a while before I was willing to wear one. I felt like a poser, but at any rate, I think we have to shape the program. And I hate to call it a program because it's so much bigger than that. But our love for this cause, we've got to shape it according to what's relevant locally, and that's what I've been so proud to be a part of for all these years.
Hmm. And so we are passing the baton. John, you want to talk about like what that means for you and maybe some of your proudest moments?
Sure. What so when Sarah Bang, have to make sure I give a shout out to Sarah Bang because Sarah Bang had been the chair for so long and done
Mhm.
so much incredible work up in the Northwest, and she led the group. And when she was retiring, she asked if I would be interested in being the chair. And it's a little daunting because there's so many incredible people involved on the board. And I remember talking to Samantha Paxson, who at the time was with Co-op, and asked if she would be willing to work with me on a strategic planning event to talk about how do we take some of these great ideas but make them actionable, and
Mhm.
the have the board, maybe get some more structure, but then also how we're doing outreach and some of that. And Sam was invaluable as we worked together. It was just so much. It was actually a lot of work, but a lot of fun at the same time. So we had this idea of creating the board and having structure to the board,
Mhm.
and having some rotations like you see at credit unions or you see at leagues, where there's a vice chair and a chair, and you just kind of and you rotate. Not that you have to leave the board at all. I mean, I won't be leaving the board, but let some other new ideas. And we had all of these great ideas, and with that, and the board was very supportive and being more engaged, and not just being a place to come and talk about best practices and what's working, but also to kind of try to get, I, I don't know, maybe just try to get some more fuel onto the fire to stir that up. And as Caroline said, to do more in the Midwest and to move out east, and then also find those other options so we can, um, amplify and celebrate. I think as Caroline talks often about amplifying, the great work that credit unions do. Um,
Mhm.
and I also think get credit for it. I think that was the other thing with CMN is to make sure that this incredible work that credit unions do, that's much different than Walmart and Costco, who are, number one and two lifetime, and we're number three, but that credit unions that gets acknowledged nationally, because I think it's important that the public sees the incredible work that credit unions do.
Yeah, for sure. And Caroline, you'll be picking up this yoke.
I know, and it's a cliche to say that John's a hard act to follow, but he is a hard act to follow. And his leadership has been tremendous. The focus on execution has been fantastic, and I think John was very smart to bring on a really strong vice chair. I worked with Samantha Paxson for my entire career at Co-op, and I know that she's a very good partner in that. And likewise, I needed to name a vice chairman, and so I asked Chris Rowe, who's legal counsel for TrueStage, if he'd be willing to be my vice chair. And I've already seen evidence that that was a great idea because we had a meeting on Friday and he had 100 great ideas. And not just ideas, but ways that we can follow up on them because we can't leave the good ideas on the flip charts. We've got to turn this into action. And so, we've got a goal of more than $20 million in funds raised this year. We want to grow that by 5% every year. That doesn't just accidentally happen. We've got to
Yeah.
put new tools in place. And Chris has um, just great thoughts on how to make that happen. And then, of course, I have to mention Nick Coleman, who has been our point person at Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, specifically the CU4Kids program. He recently got a big promotion, and he is helping us with, kind of the what are the best practices throughout the system? What would be relevant for credit unions? And then he helps us get it done together with Melissa Gell, who's been also a great partner in helping us get, for example, the Bourbon Barbecue and Bands event off the ground. So it is not any singular person. It's people who are willing to take a leadership position, but bring a lot of other people along. We've also got some really strong board members. So I'm very excited. If I do half as good a job as what John did, then I'll be doing well.
Awesome. Yeah, we host our Fab Karaoke collab. We always have like a fundraiser for
Love
Children's Miracle Network. Nothing like you guys are raising. But yeah, I'm gonna ask a very controversial question. Hopefully there's no fights here. What's the best event? What's your favorite
Best,
event?
the
Or your
best
favorite?
event. Well, of course I love my own event because it's all my people in my region. I love looking around and seeing everybody all duded up, for barbecue bands. There are others that raise more money, but oftentimes for me, what it comes back down to is the people. Uh,
Mhm.
and so I'm gonna have to name my own, but for that reason, yes.
Yeah, I would
Very
say outside of ours, I think what I found when I got here, and I remember this was Teresa Mann, Charlie Mallon, um, Yuri Valdov, that were all involved in the race. Like they talked about, well, what makes this so much different? And Charlie would always talk about, and Teresa, they had this thing where it puts in front of Congress credit unions. And Sarah, you ran in the race, so you see this. I mean, having credit unions, plastered all throughout DC on
Mhm.
Capitol Hill, and it's something that we get to go through. We get hundreds and hundreds of honorary co-chairs. So that's a great experience too. But as far as events, I mean, the Northwest, I'm a golfer. So Northwest Classic was the Hank and Moose was really
Great.
cool. Um, but one thing that really got involved in Diana Dykstra and I became very close and going to the wine auction and seeing at the time that was before we had a gala, before Bourbon's Barbecue and Bands, before In the Cellar. There was the Northwest Classic and you had the California Wine Auction, and to just see everybody pour themselves into, no pun intended, but pour themselves into the wine auction. um, it was so impactful just to see the scale of it,
Mhm.
and how they, and if you were not from, the region, the way they embraced people that came, and you never felt pressure to spend money per se. You
Mhm.
were there for a fundraiser, and I think that's the one challenge sometimes is these are fundraisers, and it doesn't matter how much you raise. I know Kentucky's doing a bourbon raffle for their
Yeah.
local one.
Nice.
It's not the amount, it's about getting credit unions together for a common cause like we do so often. That to me is what CU4Kids is all about.
Yeah.
Um,
Very much.
I'm a big fan of the wine pools too that the Maryland DC
yeah. Oh,
Conference
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we do the wine
Yeah,
pool at the convention.
super fun.
Um,
And John, you just made me think of something that it's just sort of spontaneous, but Nick Coleman from CMN joined me on Hill visits this year during
right.
GAC. And so as we're talking about why credit unions deserve their tax exemption, he gets to sort of be the color commentator about here's this thing that we do
Hmm.
nationwide. I mean, this is helping sick children throughout the country. And
Hmm.
it turned out to be incredibly impactful. And lawmakers sat up and took notice because they thought, well, I didn't even know you had that partnership. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
neat.
at the same time, like where the race, like you were mentioning, John, you got members of Congress as co-chairs, and you have
Yeah.
probably some good many of their staff running the race.
Yeah,
Uh,
we had over 850 staffers running in the race, and there's a separate competition for them. So we have, there's a Senate Cup, there's a House Cup that, for the fastest team, and Senate and congressional federal credit unions, they go out, they present that. Again, it's just more connections to what's done. Um,
mhm.
yeah, it's incredibly impactful.
Yeah, yeah. And certainly, as you mentioned, Caroline, a reason to maintain this tax status, one of the many. it's insane that it's even a question. But uh, so Caroline, what do you think? Do you have any ideas for new initiatives and things that might be starting up in the future?
Well, sure. We just had a planning meeting on Friday and talked about some things that we are going to continue and, as John said earlier, amplify because John and Samantha did such a good job of putting together a really solid strategic plan, and we're going to stay that course and just push even harder. For example, there is an ability to do fundraising at the ATM. Some credit unions, I think John was saying a second ago that Desert Financial was the first to do it. The Westcom Credit Union in Pasadena has done it, and then others have followed. But it gives you the ability in Westcom's case, I know what they do is charge foreign transaction fees that's a little bit higher. And so that incremental income goes toward CMN. Which is fabulous, and it's a pretty low friction way to raise funds. So we're going to put our foot on the accelerator for that particular program because I think we need to supplement the signature events with some transactional type of giving.
Mhm.
That's important. We definitely want to drive home the connection between financial health and physical health because we know that medical debt is the number one reason for financial ruin, for bankruptcy in the United States. And so what we're doing is so directly related to the credit union mission of people helping people. We're helping people avoid financial ruin by supplementing or subsidizing the cost of care and not just care for individuals, but also new equipment and technology for hospitals. So to make our communities healthier. So we believe that there's a really strong correlation. We know there is. Statistically, it's been proven that there is a correlation between financial and physical health. So we'll put our foot on that accelerator as well. So so many good ideas, too many to name here, but those are a few that are top of mind that we were going to push on.
Yeah, so many people don't correlate the money, yeah, stress with their physical health. That's just, yeah. I mean, you feel it, but you don't necessarily recognize it, I guess. So yeah, truly very important. So I always allow my guests final thoughts as we wrap up here. John, I'm going to start with you. What would you like to leave our credit union audience with?
I, so what I would suggest is to share with each other. I think one of the things that we found is, and I use this example, Desert Financial has done so many different really cool things. And Darren was sitting in a meeting, and that's where the ATM idea or discussion had come up.
Mhm.
And by the end of the meeting, Darren had already worked with his team. Like they had already activated. And I think when we talked about embracing this event idea, right, all of a sudden it was in the cellar, Teachers Federal Credit Union's golf outing out in New York, and then Caroline at Bourbon Barbecue and Bands, and then all down at the League of Credit Unions and Affiliates. Everybody's embracing that and trying to let's accelerate what we're doing and be willing to try new things. As Caroline said, I know Valera is working on ways to leverage mobile banking so people can do giving through mobile banking, which would be the closest we can get to transactional giving like these other folks do.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's been an honor and a privilege to work with the board, to work with CMN and Caroline, and Sarah Bang, and I just could go on and on with the folks. And I got to throw a thank you out to Tom Sargent because when I went to that outing, Tom was such a passionate person for it, and it kind of creates a burden. I wouldn't say a burden, but it creates a responsibility, I think, that you have when you get involved in things like this, that
Mhm.
people did this, with passion. And we talk about mission, structure, purpose, and our purpose is
Mhm.
our passion. And I think that's what makes us different, not just saying people helping people, but living it.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Caroline, wraps up.
Well, John teed me up so well because and when you asked the question, Sarah, I was thinking ultimately it's always about the people. I mean, you've got to be striving toward a relevant, compelling mission. But I think about our need to find new champions right? We had John and I were both inspired by Tom Sargent, who's no longer with us. I was inspired by Stan Holland
Mm-hmm.
at Co-op when he came up with a Miracle Match program. You know, Tony Bowtell with the wine auction, who's really just carried it forward with lots of partners. The folks in the Go West region, specifically First Tech, with their Northwest Golf Classic, who are the next generation of
Mm-hmm.
those leaders. And we've got to be bringing them into the fold now. We've got to be helping them see the vision now
Mm-hmm.
so that this continues, so that this is relevant. And we're not looking at 20 or 21.85 million in the coming year, but we're looking at 30 or $50 million of impact in our communities. But it takes talented, dedicated people who have a love for this cause. And so that will be, I think, one of the keys to our success moving forward, probably the biggest key to our
Gotta
success.
surpass Walmart. Gotta.
We've got to beat Walmart. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.